This episode of Hero Club is supported by our good friends over at Mage Hand Press. Check them out at magehandpress.com and buy their High Seas supplement for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition to Shanghai your own group of adventurers. If you like Hero Club, remember to rate and review on your preferred platform and tell your friends.
Welcome to Hero Club. I'm Nick Williams.
And I am George Primavera.
George and I have been playing D&D together for years.
Now, a lot of people think you need to be a big, huge nerd boy to play Dungeons & Dragons.
But in reality, you just have to be willing to spend 4 hours of your own time on a weekday trashed on cheap beer cross-legged around a coffee table.
I lost a game of Flip Cup in 2012, so I had to buy all the books and learn how to be Dungeon Master. My dad was disappointed.
Yeah, he was. But after a game or two, we realized that it's actually a really fun and effective way to tell an awesome story.
Yeah, it's like long-form improv, but you kill more people.
Here's what you need to know. George creates a world and the framework for a cool story.
And the players, like Nick, create characters beforehand, all with special abilities, sometimes magical, sometimes not, and they adventure through the story as best they can, trying not to die.
We, the players, roll dice to see if our improvised actions fail or succeed, trying to beat a number in George's head that he promises he doesn't change at will.
But at the table, I am God, my game, my rules.
Okay, so it's as nerdy as you thought. You know what? Just off, man.
Whoa,
right off,
all right,
okay?
Nick, maybe don't tell everybody to F off. And it's not that nerdy. I mean, we get rid of all that stupid math, and we add music and sound effects and stuff like that, so, you know, it's cool.
Anyway, these stories do follow a linear plot, so if you want to know what's going on, start at the beginning of any season you like and have fun with it.
Without further ado,
welcome to Hero Club! Yeah!
Down the ouchie hole they went in search of Muldoon's lost love. The journey to purify the diamond would soon come to a head, but sinister things were afoot on all sides that day as two pasts set themselves to collide.
Drake, Bastion, Lilia, and Vivian crawl through an underwater tunnel filled with razor coral, each of them sporting thick, heavy diving suits. An oxygen hose extends back through the cave, impossibly long. As the razor coral tears little holes in the hose, the rips magically sew themselves shut almost instantaneously. The Swoop brothers had affectionately referred to this tunnel as the ouchie hole, and now it's clear to see why. The tunnel takes a steep upward turn after a while, and eventually all 4 pirates are climbing upward through the water, using the thick ribbons of sharp coral as footholds, until they come to a boulder blocking the path. The boulder isn't perfectly flush with the tunnel walls, however, and a few streaks of light can be seen around the sides.
Drake motions with his hands for the whole group to begin to push the boulder.
Can everybody make an athletics check, please?
14.
21. 17.
6.
As all 4 pirates heave upwards, the boulder comes loose a little bit. Slowly, in tandem, they all make their way up the tunnel, holding the boulder aloft as they do. Can everybody make a constitution save, please?
13.
6.
22. 4.
At a particularly difficult point in the climbing, Drake, Lilia, and Vivian all lose a grip on the boulder, and Bastion is left the only one holding it. Bastion, can you roll an athletics check, please?
19.
Just barely, Bastion is able to keep the boulder aloft, but he begins to struggle and lose his grip. Can everybody else make an athletics check, please?
14.
19.
1.
Drake and Lilia meet Bastion at the boulder, all heaving upwards. But Vivian slips and begins to fall backwards into the tunnel, now significantly behind everybody else, and he's unable to help.
Vivian reaches out for a length of hose that he can grab to try to steady himself and swim or climb back up.
Vivian quickly reaches out for a hose and ends up tugging on Lilia's. Lilia, can you make a strength save?
5.
Lilia loses her grip on the boulder and is tugged downwards, Vivian accidentally pulling her down. Drake and Bastion, make an athletics check.
14.
14.
Drake and Bastion maintain good form, but the boulder begins to push them downwards. They're forced to essentially climb down, following the boulder.
Having steadied himself using Lilia's hose, Vivian goes back to pushing the boulder.
Make an athletics check.
14.
Vivian's strength stabilizes the boulder, and as Lilia gets up and begins to push on the boulder,
16.
the boulder begins to move upward, and all 4 pirates emerge from the tunnel onto a barren ocean floor, the boulder rolling up into the sand. And what lies before them shakes each one to their core. To the north and south is endless clear blue water and rippled white sand. To the west, thick columns of twisting coral the size of redwood trees that span miles and miles in every direction. But it is what's to the east that forms the pit in the buccaneers' stomachs. A wall of inky black water extends to the water's surface. The darkness roils like gas in the water, and within the opaque murk, impossibly large shapes creep by along the inky edge. Low guttural tones vibrate through the water as these big shapes pass. A full minute goes by as you take the absurd scene in. And then behind you, you hear, "Identify yourself." Whipping your heads around, you are face to face with a full phalanx of Gillish warriors, tridents and nets at the ready. A quick count reveals about 20 soldiers, all in resplendent and shining turquoise armor with white ornamentation. The leader, a dolphin, floats forward, his plate armor silent as his tail propels him. "I say again, identify yourself."
Drake throws his hands up in the air. "Captain Drake Muldoon, and the crew of the Old Wives' Tale. We mean no harm, I promise."
The dolphin turns to his men. "Did anybody understand that?" They all shake their heads.
Drake points at the diving helmet, does a no symbol with his hand and his neck, and makes a little mouth out of his hand.
The dolphin thinks for a moment, seems to realize what you're trying to say, and he gestures to a pufferfish behind him. "Will the kind Frost please step forward?" The kind Frost seems to be the pufferfish. "Give each of them a conch, but be careful, it could be a trap." The pufferfish floats forward and hands each of you a small conch shell that he places into each of your palms, and then gestures for you to speak.
As I said before, my name is Captain Drake Muldoon, and this is the crew of the Old Wives' Tale.
Drake's voice is coming out of the conch shell now.
I swear, we mean you no harm.
Make a persuasion check, Drake.
14.
The dolphin relaxes a bit, seems satisfied. "State your business, Drake Muldoon. What has brought you to the Blackwater's edge?"
We're here to parley with the Valiant Tide on an urgent matter.
The dolphin is taken aback a bit, surprised that you know the name, the Valiant Tide, and he looks to the rest of his men. The narwhal behind him lowers a very heavy-looking trident into the sand and says,
"They're here to see the Valiant Tide? Well, surely they must be allies."
He floats forward quickly and offers his hand.
"Well met, friends."
Drake clasps the narwhal's hand and shakes it vigorously.
Haha! Good to meet you, my friend.
They call me the Glorious Tusk.
As well they should. Look at that monster!
Ha ha! I polished it this morning.
The dolphin then floats forward, introducing himself. "I am called the Course Navy. If you are here to see the Valiant Tide, she will see you soon. She is indisposed at the moment. You may follow us if you like, and we will bring you to a patch of land to await her."
That would be most agreeable, thank you.
You will walk ahead, if you don't mind, just to be safe.
How will we know where we're going?
Well, we're not going into the forest, and we're not going into the Blackwater, so it will be one of two ways. And he points sardonically to the left.
You could have just said left.
I have a feeling we're not going to like each other very much.
A lot of people say that.
I'm sure. After you.
Drake leads the way across the sand.
The party begins to walk along the ocean floor, with a group of 20 Gillish soldiers floating behind them. The bottom halves of their body all end in a kind of tail, which allows them to float and propel themselves along the ocean floor. Once in a while, you'll see one or two of them float up a bit higher, taking a position somewhere in between the ocean floor and the ocean surface. However, 4 of the Gillish soldiers remain very close to you, one of which is the Course Navy, the dolphin from earlier, the Glorious Tusk, the narwhal, the pufferfish, referred to as the Kind Frost, and a very large manta ray. Most of the Gillish soldiers seem to have no interest in speaking to you, but the Glorious Tusk is more than happy for a conversation.
So, land creatures. Ha! Don't see that every day. I like your suits.
Thank you. Although I don't like the color, it's not one I would have chosen. But I have a question for you, Mr. Tusk. How do these work?
And Lilia looks down at the conch shell with a sense of admiration.
Ah, the conches.
Sure.
A special trick developed by the Valiant Tide. It takes vibrations from your voice and projects them into the ocean. You see, vibrations travel easier underwater. Above the surface, these would be useless.
Cool. Wow, Drake, your lady must be very smart.
Huh?
Well, the story is...
Lilia, you're always getting the word that and you're confused. That lady does sound pretty smart. Ugh. Can you believe this one? Vivian?
Vivian's helmeted head turns up and looks Bastion's helmeted head in the face. After seeing the desperation through the porthole of Bastion's helmet, Vivian rolls his eyes and does his best to cover for Bastion socially.
No, I can't believe her. Her behavior perplexes me, Bastion.
Then he turns his helmeted head back forward and doesn't say anything further.
Bastion, make a deception check with advantage.
8.
No, she said you're and seemed pretty sure about it.
Vivian, without looking this time, says,
Trust me, she's an idiot.
Make a deception check at a disadvantage.
25.
The glorious Tusk peers into Lilia's eyes a little more carefully. She is smiling back at him with a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah. Well, good to meet you anyway. You seem very nice.
I'll remember you.
The glorious Tusk, not missing a beat, pats Lilia on the shoulder and says,
Haha, I'm sure you will.
Suddenly, the coarse navy, the dolphin, propels himself to the front of the party and motions for everyone to stop, his eyes wide with fear. Stop! Don't move! The Gillish people go silent and still immediately, and everyone's head turns towards the Blackwater. It's quiet for a moment. There's no sound. Then, a little plume of black liquid begins to roil outwards from the wall. It extends about 10 feet, and then out of the plume, a little black crustacean floats outward and slowly rests in the white sand. And as it does, it begins to burrow. And as it burrows, black liquid begins to stir up and kick out into the blue ocean, and the wall of Blackwater begins to meet it, moving forward and encroaching onto more and more of the white sand, until finally, the wall is at least 2 feet closer than it was before. The coarse navy, still a bit frightened looking, waves everybody forward. But as he does, an armored black fin begins to extend out of the wall of Blackwater. 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, until the fin is revealed to be at least 30 feet long. It drags into the white sand, creating a massive, sweeping trench in the sand, and then it turns back into the water, disappearing completely. All right, I think it's safe now. Everyone follow. Keep the noise low. The glorious Tusk is no longer the jovial conversationalist he was previously, and there is now a somber, sober expression on his face. After a few more minutes traveling across the white sand, moving a bit more slowly now, the party is brought up a very sandy hill. As they get closer and closer to the water's surface, they see very gentle waves lapping at a beachhead against a very miniature island. It can't possibly be more than 30 feet in diameter. After you, the Valiant tide will be with you shortly. The dolphin gestures for the party to go ashore.
Drake bows slightly as much as he can in his diving suit and breaches the surface, removing his helmet as soon as he does.
Bastion follows suit.
Vivian follows Bastion.
Lilia brings up the rear, but not before looking back at the glorious Tusk, dropping her smile and staring at him as she follows the others onto the island.
Lilia disappears above the surface. The glorious narwhal looks to the manta and whispers under his breath.
Was it something I said?
As the party takes their diving helmets off, they realize that even though they've traveled hundreds and hundreds of feet, the hose still has some slack to it. You remember what the Soup Brothers said about the hose being ever extending. You are now alone on a tiny miniature island in the middle of nothing, and all four of you look out at the ocean's surface. To the north and south, clear blue water extending in every direction, only the horizon line in the distance. To the west, little bits of the thick forest of coral just barely protrude from the ocean's surface. And to the east, the water's surface is dark and sludgy, like a congealed soup. And resting on top of the water are galleons, sitting motionless in the black bubbling expanse. Some are utterly unrecognizable from lands unknown, maybe even times unknown. Others are more familiar, such as an armada warship that is relatively close to the Blackwater's border. Most of the ships are in good condition, but one or two of them have massive gashes in the side, as if clawed at by a monstrous hand.
Drake exchanges a look with Bastion. You know, I didn't want to believe it, but I think you're right. Coincidences do exist, but this salting well might not be one of them. Drake turns to the other two. I think you both deserve to know the true origin of Captain Drake Muldoon and Bastion Lagrange.
Lilia sits down and crosses her legs, looking up at Drake expectantly.
Vivian plants his helmet in the sand and sits on it.
Are you sure, Drake?
Like you said, Bastion, something was bound to catch up with us at some point.
Finally.
Well, as you both know, the Old Wives' Tale wasn't always our ship. Bastion and I first met as cabin boys underneath the great Hilmar Breach, the gargantuan walrus that you've seen the bust of in my office. In fact, this is his cutlass here, on my hip. He taught me everything I know. Bastion too. He was a good man. His crew, however, were some of the worst cutthroats I've ever met. They didn't care for the more generous side of Hilmar Breach. They were hard beasts. Predators, not unlike the carnivore. Worst of the lot was his first mate, Yukon Blood Harvest. A jackal in every sense of the word.
You see, I was never supposed to be on that ship. Yukon and his loyalists, they caught my family and their act one night and thought it might be funny to have a small child performer on the ship. Drunkenly they took me from my mother. When Ilmar found out, he was furious. He protected me and Drake from their torment. He knew that our loyalty would be to him, no matter what.
We had heard rumblings of dissent amongst the crew, but never thought there was any weight to it. Until one day, Breach summoned us to the belly of the ship.
Ilmar knew that he was going to die that night, that there would be mutiny. And he knew that we would, young as we were, do anything to protect him. So he did the only thing he could do. He locked us in the brig to save our lives from our own foolishness.
But that's not exactly how it shook out. You see, with all the pressures of the mutiny and all, Breach had made a crucial mistake. We were far east, mind you, farther than anyone had ever been at that point, that we had heard of. And we had heard the stories, whispers about the Blackwater. But like most things on the sea, we thought it was just an old wives' tale. That night, while we were locked in the brig, and Yukon and his men prepared to kill our captain, the ship crossed that border.
That is when Drake and I heard the two most terrifying things we had ever heard in our lives. First, we heard the sound of battle above us.
Brief and violent.
And then, the most terrifying thing. Absolutely nothing. The first prison that Drake and I ever escaped from was the brig on our ship.
When we finally did escape and got up to the deck, there was nothing there. No bodies, no blood. Just an empty ship. In the time we had been in the brig, enough wind had pushed our ship through the Blackwater, so we were safe from that. But as you well know, 2 men does not a crew make, and we were dead in the water.
Even though we have heard that story many times of Drake and I sailing the ship back to shore by ourselves, it is impossible. Never happened.
There is no great Hilmar Breach's treasure that funded our escapades, and we did not sail that ship by ourselves.
And that's when he met me.
Drake whips around so fast that he almost loses his footing and sees the Valiant Tide.
The Valiant Tide is a seahorse shimmering between deep violet and pale lavender. She's wearing sleek silver plate armor with touches of turquoise embroidery. Her eyes gleam deep red, and there is an air of power in her presence. She holds a strong staff made of driftwood and covered in dark rubies. Over her mouth, she wears a translucent mask, within which you can see ocean water circulating.
Hey there, Val. Long time no see.
I certainly never thought that I would be seeing you again, especially not here.
In the awkward silence, Bastion kind of waves his hand. Hello, Val. In spite of the circumstances, it is nice to see you.
Bastion, I must say, despite everything, I am glad to see you. The same cannot be said about your friend.
Go easy on him, Val. It has been a rough couple of weeks. I mean, he just admitted that I was right, so...
No, Bastion, I deserve that.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just saying go easy.
Now would be a good time for you to tell me what in Hog's name you are doing here.
You know what? I think that Vivian and Lilia probably have some questions for me, and I think that you two have some catching up to do. So Lilia, Vivian, let's go over to the far side of the sandbar and pretend we can't see each other.
Oh, but this was about to get so good!
Lilia, I'm literally going to tell you everything about their whole relationship. Just come over here.
I always prefer watching gossip than hearing about it secondhand, but alright, that's fine, I'll follow you.
Vivian wasn't asleep, but he is shaken back into focus by Bastion addressing him by name. Huh? We moving?
Bastion leads Vivian and Lilia to the other side of this tiny island, leaving Val and Drake alone. The air is nothing but tense.
Drake awkwardly readjusts himself by pulling at the diving suit. You look good.
Val is silent and displays no shows of emotion other than staring daggers into Drake's eyes.
Listen, Val, you know I wouldn't be bothering you if it weren't important. We're actually doing something here, something of note.
Important to you? Self-indulgent, as always, I presume.
Again, I deserve that. But this time it's different, Val. I'm talking real, admirable, noble stuff. I presume you know what a phylactery is.
On the other side of the island, with Bastion, Lilia, and Vivian?
So there we were, on our way to safety, and, of course, Drake and Val fell madly in love. But when we finally got back to shore, Drake was full of so much rage, and he figured that the only way to honor Ilmar's memory was to be the most famous pirate that there ever was. And with nowhere else to put his rage, Drake resorted to his own standby, putting his rage against the Armada. Val thought it was adorable for a while, but the more and more we developed the persona of Drake Muldoon and his mysterious, dashing, graceful first mate, well, Val started to get a little bit more concerned. Drake was meant for more.
What's this got to do with the big shiny ball of death we got on the ship?
Back over to Drake and Val.
And all of this got me thinking, Val, about what you said all those years ago, about how I was meant for something greater. This is a chance, not just for glory or riches, it's a chance to do something right, for once.
You're trying to stop this queen and destroy her phylactery for what? To purify the Blackwater? Or to stick it to the Armada as you always are?
Can't I purify the Blackwater and stick it to the Queen?
Your reasons matter. They determine your success. You take what you want and leave carnage behind. I will not let you do that with the Gillish people. I no longer trust you, nor your intentions.
Well, by the looks of it, the Gillish people will bloody well perish anyway if we don't do something about it. I'm offering you a solution here. I know we have a past, but can't we put that aside for the greater good?
Drake, make a persuasion check.
21.
Val casts her eyes downward for a moment, thinking, and then meets Drake's gaze, clearly irritated.
Is it with you?
Well, we couldn't ruddy well bring it through the ouchie hole.
The what?
You know, the ouchie hole. Doesn't everyone call it the ouchie? The big razor coral...
Are you speaking of the Razor Tunnel?
Yes, Razor Tunnel.
Drake, where is the diamond?
Well, it's on my ship. But the trick is, we can't get it across the coral reef.
I cannot just leave my people whenever I please, as you can. So what exactly do you expect me to do?
Back to Bastion?
I know as much as you do, that apparently, since we last saw Val, she has grown in power, and she is to be the one who can purify this phylactery.
Were you talking to me?
Vivian, do you understand what Drake just did.
Listen, Bastion. Every beast's got his or her dirty laundry. You don't see me airing my reasons for not wanting to go east, which, by the way, might be a touch more pressing than this lover's quarrel beetle sketch.
This is more pressing, Vivian. There is no more east for us to go to find Drake's problems. They are here. It is not a contest to see who has more tragedy in the past. That was not why we told this story. Drake told this story to you and Lilia because he loves you. Because he felt that there were two people who did not know it on this beach. Two people who deserve to know why we were here and why we are in danger. Two people who would be very useful if they had the knowledge that only 3 people in the entire world used to have. Now there are 5 people who have it.
Vivian looks into Bastion's eyes and can tell that he's being 100% sincere. I'm being hunted by a very powerful Scalic magician.
What?
Yeah, maybe. Probably. I don't know. We're doing the captain's thing right now.
Back to Val and Drake?
Look, Val, I'm not asking you to give me a second chance. As much as I would love that, I feel that ship has probably sailed. But I am begging you, help me do the right thing. This once. All you have to do is come back to the ship and purify the phylactery. Then you can come back. I just want what's best for you and your people. There has to be a way I can make amends.
Roll a persuasion check, Drake.
22.
And you are absolutely sure that this can stop the Blackwater?
I would bet my life on it.
Val's expression softens just a little, and she reaches behind her back and pulls out a small rod about 2 feet long with very ornate inscriptions on it and little gold leaf ends. She holds it in 2 hands, gingerly and carefully.
I cannot come with you, but there is a way.
She extends her hand and holds it out to you. As it moves through the air towards you, it hums with a ringing sound, almost as if the rod is constantly vibrating. Though when you hold it in your hands, Drake, you just feel warmth.
For years and years, I have studied purification magic to keep the Blackwater at bay. It's been a losing battle for a long time, until I crafted this. I call it the Wonder, made with the rarest of crystals, mined from a trench long since lost to the Blackwater. I take it you have a magician on deck?
2, actually.
Give this to one of them. Place it on the diamond surface, and you can cleanse the darkness from within. But Drake, know this. While this is in your possession, I have absolutely no way of keeping the Blackwater at bay. The longer you have the Wonder, the more the Blackwater will grow, and the more in danger the Gillish people will be. You have 2 days until the Blackwater takes us all. Thousands live within the coral forest. I bet you didn't know that. Should you delay, their blood, as well as mine, will be on your hands. Will you be able to reconcile that with your intentions?
I've salted up a lot of my life, but I swear I will never disappoint you again. That is a promise.
Thank you, Drake. I don't know why, but I believe you.
For just a flash, you see the same kindness and love in Val's eyes that you saw all those years ago, Drake. But she quickly composes herself, stealing her expression.
Well, we haven't any time to lose. I'll escort you to the Razor Tunnel.
Back to the other 3.
Look at that seahorse. Look at Val. She's a brilliant mind. There was nothing stopping them. Except Drake. If there's anyone who can figure this out, it is her.
Lilia takes everything in before putting a paw on Bastion, looking up into his eyes, and saying, I'm very sorry about how you were stolen from your family. That must have been very hard. I hope you know how much you mean to us.
Thank you, Lilia. A conversation for another time. He's waving us over. Be gentle.
The 3 rejoin Drake and Val.
Lilia, upon arriving to Drake and Val, goes into a deep curtsy and says, Your Majesty.
I'm not... That's unnecessary, but thank you. Hello.
Ladyship.
That's also not...
Your Royalty.
Val looks to the mouse, confused.
Vivian shrugs, perplexed.
Val, it was nice to see you. It seems you have done very well for yourself. Are you coming with us?
I'll escort you back to the tunnel, but then it is goodbye from there. I cannot carry on to the ship with you. But not to worry, Drake and I have found a solution together.
Well, it was mostly you. She gave me this hummy stick.
It's actually called the Wonder, and yes, it was all me, but I am letting Drake use it.
Just like old times.
The crew dons their diving suits and wades into the surf. The Valiant Tide leads the four back to the Razor Tunnel.
Without saying anything to anyone, Vivian heads down the hole.
It was very nice to meet you. Or not meet you. My name's Lilia. There you have it. But thank you for everything that you've done.
It was a pleasure to meet you. Good luck.
Thank you, Queen Val.
And Lilia gets into the hole after Vivian.
I'm not... Goodbye.
Bastion very slowly goes in for a hug, as if he's not sure if she's going to reciprocate.
Val chuckles to herself and warmly accepts Bastion's embrace. Take care of him, Bastion. Please. Make sure he does the right thing. You're the only one he'll listen to.
One day, Val, you just might be right about that.
Bastion dives into the hole.
Drake and Val are now alone at the entrance to the Razor Tunnel. The Blackwater stands ominously behind them, and there is silence.
It won't be me returning the wonder to you, because I honestly do not trust myself not to try and stay. But I am a changed beast.
And Drake removes his diving helmet. And as he does, gills sprout from his neck. And once this is all over, I would like to take the time to prove it to you.
Upon seeing the gills, Val's eyes fill with tears, and that warm look of love returns to her eyes, and this time stays. Drake, I don't know what to say. In a way, I think I've always been waiting for you, so I suppose I can keep going for a while longer. You know where to find me.
I wouldn't make the mistake of never seeing you again. Drake screws his helmet back on and steps over to the entrance of the Razor Tunnel.
And I meant what I said. You do look good.
And Drake plummets down into the tunnel.
What?
Watching him leave, Val softly shakes her head. Drake Muldoon. And with a smile on her face and a tear floating off of her cheek, she swims away from the sight of the love of her life.
The four gather at the bottom of the Razor Tunnel's descent.
Lilia swims over to Drake and puts a hand on his shoulder.
As someone who's experienced the trials and tribulations of love, I imagine that must have been very difficult for you.
Thank you, Lilia. It means a lot coming from someone so experienced.
After another hour or two moving through the Razor Coral, all four make their way over the edge of the well on the island previous and begin to take off their diving suits. The first thing they notice is the absence of Sidecar Soup, who Lilia is looking for expectantly.
Handsome pelican, hello?
It's eerily quiet.
It's eerily quiet.
Can all of you make a perception check, please?
13.
15.
20.
16.
Drake clocks some movement at the tree line.
Look alive, gang, we might have trouble.
A tall, broad figure begins to emerge from the swamp. It's about sunset now, so the whole island is relatively well lit, and you can see clearly, wading up to its ankles in the mucky water, a 9-foot crocodile, dressed in tattered rags, with one gigantic bloodshot eye, and most significantly, an extra pair of arms under his original 2. He calls out from the swamp, dragging a black chain behind him. Whatever is at the other end of it is completely submerged in water. The crocodile opens its disgusting, drooling maw and barks at the group.
Finally! Do you know how long I have been waiting for you?
Are you talking to me?
Are you the one they call Stoker?
Oh. It's for you, Vivian.
Skelec Magician.
Probably. Maybe. I don't know, we were focused on the captain's thing. Vivian steps forward and addresses the monster. You must be that vast red-eye fella, eh?
So, you know my name. Terrifying, as advertised.
Listen, mate, I don't really have time for a chit-chat right now.
Then I will not bore you. My name is Vas Redeye, born of Blackwater, the Soul Drinker. Ishkar Whitescale has chosen me as his Stain Stoker, but in order to become his champion, I must take your power from you. I must kill you, Stoker, and rise to assume your place.
Mate, what if you just go back to Whitescale, tell him you killed me, you get to be his Thane, I have no interest in coming back, I get to go back to my ship with my stuff, everybody's happy.
Make a persuasion check.
16.
A kind offer. Disappointing. I had heard you were merciless. I am merciless as well.
He pulls the chain above the water's surface, and swinging from his hand is the phylactery. The mood in the swamp changes.
Vivian's already stoic face darkens. See, mate, now we have a problem.
What problem?
That's from me cabin, mate, and nobody touches my stuff.
It is funny. The Bulldogs said the same thing. What do you think happens to them when they touch it? Do they disappear?
And he gazes into the diamond.
Or are they inside of it, do you think?
Vivian cuts Voss off, hurling 2 Eldritch Blasts right at his face. Nat 20. And a 23.
Both are hits.
24 total damage.
Yes.
Voss's eyes begin to glow a shadowy black, and his form grows from 9 feet to 12 feet. His muscles expanding and his fists clenching, his new wounds still smoking with a green gas.
Come at me!
We're the ceremonial blades, Voss. If we're doing the ritual, we're both trying to take each other's power, right? I don't see a scorpion tail knife, but I also don't see anything worth taking.
I came prepared.
Voss throws a scorpion tail into the muck in front of Vivian and pulls out one of his own, and in his other hand takes out a curved sword.
Vivian scoops up the scorpion tail knife, fires off a couple Eldritch Blasts at Voss, and takes the dodge action. 14, 26.
Voss ducks the first, and the second hits him in the shoulder.
13 damage.
Lilia stares at this behemoth abomination with a level of sadness and anger we have not seen in her before. As she raises her hands, her eyes brim over with tears. What have you done? And casts Geese at 5th level. Lilia's hands start to shake, and then blur, and then double, as she thrusts them forward towards Voss.
Voss's body begins to shake. He grits his sharp teeth. Voss's spine suddenly straightens as the spell takes hold. All 4 of his gigantic fists clench, and a little bit of the shadowy aura around him now begins to fade as Lilia's voice reverberates across the swamp.
Lie on the ground, face down.
Voss struggles for a moment, and then his knees go down into the water. His 4 fists hold him a bit upright, and his face points down towards the water.
No fair, Stoker. I didn't bring anyone.
Drake, give that to me.
After passing the wonder to Lilia, Drake unsheathes his cutlass, runs over to the prone creature, and slashes at the back of its legs, immobilizing it. 13.
As Drake approaches, Voss kicks a wave of water upwards, forcing him backwards.
Drake brings his hook down, also towards the leg. 19.
The hook hits.
26 damage, as he rakes the back of the crocodile's legs with his hook.
Bastion runs up to Voss and begins to punch him directly in the face. 25, 26, 19.
3 hits.
30 points of damage.
On the 3rd punch that lands, Voss's body begins to seize up, and he falls a little more weakly into the shallow water.
Oh, Stoker, you can kill me if you want, but as long as there is Blackwater, I will be here, waiting for you. This ends with you and I, now or later.
Vivian walks over and stands over Red-Eye. Don't worry about the Blackwater, mate. We're working on it. And he plunges the scorpion barb into the back of the crocodile's neck. 23.
That's a hit.
8 damage.
Voss doesn't react. He just takes it, still gritting his teeth.
Lilia this whole time has been walking towards the phylactery, and upon reaching it, touches the wonder to its surface.
Lilia, as soon as you touch it, a ringing explodes out through the trees. Can everybody make a constitution save?
Nat 20.
16.
5.
Botch.
Lilia, you take 23 necrotic damage as the dark energy wave forces you back 10 feet, sending you on your butt into the water. Vivian, you take 7 damage as the ringing causes your ears to bleed a bit.
Drake takes a powerful stance and overhead swings the cutlass down at Voss's head. 29. 38 damage. You thought you could just take everything from us and waltz away like some big scat?
Bastion, in a fit of quiet rage, punches Voss in the eye 3 times. 27, 22, 22.
All 3 hits.
21 points of damage.
My eye!
Voss begins to struggle to get up. But as he does, a vibration begins to shake in his body, a remnant from the spell that Lilia cast earlier, and he grabs his head in agony. He takes 28 psychic damage. As he stands up, everybody adjacent to him gets an opportunity attack, and you all pounce.
Drake swings his cutlass down. 25. 37 damage. Drake brings his cutlass down and around into the crocodile's stomach and pulls it across, cowing him.
Bastion hits him with an uppercut for good measure. 21. 8 points of damage.
With Voss's head thrown back, Vivian deals the final blow with the scorpion barb. 23.
Voss goes still and drops to his knees in the water, his arms going limp, just barely keeping himself upright.
Vivian brings his head over Voss's face, staring into his red eye. You're right, mate. You should have brought people with you.
You came looking for me 'cause of the stories.
Vivian gestures to Drake.
The stories about him make mine sound like nursery rhymes.
You were worried about taking my power, but
she's a more powerful magician than I could ever hope to be.
You were so worried about fighting me, but he gestures to Bastion.
He's the best fighter in the crew. But me, I'm the best killer on the ship.
And Vivian pulls out the barb and kicks Voss back into the swamp.
As Voss tumbles back into the swamp water, he begins to melt. Slowly, his skin becomes the same consistency as the water around him. You begin to see his skeleton beneath, but very soon, that also dissipates into the water. And a puff of shadowy smoke is all that's left suddenly. It floats in the air for a moment, and then you hear, as the smoke is blown away,
As long as you are east, I will be here. I am Voss Redeye, born of Blackwater.
and the smoke blows away.
Under his breath, too quietly for the others to hear, Vivian Stoker says,
And I don't care.
Lilia breathes a small sigh of relief before focusing back on the phylactery, taking a calming breath and touching it once again with the wonder.
Everybody make a constitution save as the sound rings out.
9.
Botch.
10.
12.
Everybody goes to their knees as the ringing, more intense than before, forces everybody down. Lilia, you take 21 damage. Bastion, you take 7 damage. Drake, you take 6. And Vivian, you take 4.
Lilia begins to get up again, attempting to touch the phylactery one more time.
A small paw catches her arm. Vivian takes the wonder out of Lilia's hand, and meeting eyes with her, shakes his head. Vivian steels himself, and before touching the phylactery,
This one's more my kind of magic, Rendazzo.
And Vivian sizes up the phylactery before touching it.
Make an Arcana check.
9.
You can't see much about it, just that the crack in the diamond has increased in size by at least 8-fold.
Vivian gives a perplexed sigh and a shrug, and touches the wonder to the phylactery.
Make a Constitution save.
9.
10.
16.
7.
Bastion's the only one who remains upright. The ringing increases in volume. 9 damage for Drake. 9 damage for Lilia. 21 damage for Vivian.
Vivian checks again and rolls another Arcana check. 10.
The crack has expanded.
Vivian jams the wonder into the crack. 13.
17.
13.
13.
This time, Drake, kicking himself back up onto the beachhead away from the water, is the only one to be able to cover his ears in time. Bastion takes 13 damage, Lilia takes 5, Vivian takes 18.
Vivian coughs and ignores the red splotch on the sand that he leaves before going to touch the phylactery one last time.
Before he can touch it, Lilia reaches out and snatches his hand away. This isn't meant for us. Grabbing the wonder and tossing it to Drake, before opening up a trap door on the floor and shoving both herself and Vivian through it.
Wait.
Drake and Bastion are alone with the diamond.
Bastion, let me do it. It's my weight to bear.
Drake, I couldn't if I tried.
22.
18.
Bastion, with his hand on Drake's shoulder, bears the weight of the diamond with him. The ringing increases. Drake grunts as the necrotic energy makes his fur ripple as if by a breeze. And then, there's a shockwave. Drake and Bastion are flung backwards into the sand. They shakily get up, and then they see, in the swamp, a massive, clear diamond resting in the sand, reflecting the rays of the setting sun into a rainbow onto the beach. And in the water, now soaking wet and standing up shakily and slowly, is every member of the Old Wives' Tale crew. Several members of the Armada. Edgar Churchill stares ahead, shell-shocked. Above him, hanging from a tree branch, Commander Bosch looks around horrified, makes eye contact with Drake, and sees the diamond clear at his feet. What have you done?
Ever may she reign.
I set upon the ship at dawn, I wouldn't dare be late. Abilities were checked to see if I could pull my weight. For my first meal, a lemon peel, the best I ever ate. The grand old ship began the trip, our fortune we were making. Silver, copper, platinum, gold, I seek the things that can't be sold.
This has been a Hero Club production, produced by Nick Williams and George Primavera, with associate producers Marty Abby Schneider and Dylan McCullum. Voice acting by George Primavera, Nick Williams, Hannah Fagerbaki, Dylan McCullum, Marty Abby Schneider, Carson Fagerbaki, and Zach Weber. Theme song by Matthew McCullum and performed by Hannah Fagerbaki. Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod and Ben Doyle for their incredible music, Mage Hand Press for their genius D&D 5th edition homebrew, and Marty Abby Schneider for his amazing artwork. Thanks for listening, and welcome to the club.
Glistening with dew, I'll count me blessed if I ne'er rest till this world I subdue. In every cove's a treasure trove,
It's all for the taking.
Silver, copper, platinum, gold, I seek the things that can't be sold. I seek the things that can't be sold. Lilia, upon arriving to Drake and Val, goes into a deep curtsy and says, "Your Majesty."
Drake is embarrassed.
Oh, man.